session, non-public, but now we're back in the public session, and I will start with what we call approve the minutes of the August 28th meeting. We had no meeting on the 11th because it was election day, so we go back to the 28th for our last minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 28th Selectmen meeting.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There was one correction on the third page. The dollar amount for one of the grants was off by a couple cents. So if you go to page 3, it's highlighted.
Okay, as a housekeeping,
So if there's a correction that needs to be made, it
Right.
needs to be made by a motion, one of the selectmen, and then voted on. Are you saying that it wasn't scribed as it was discussed, or
No.
that what was discussed was not accurate?
No, the only thing that's incorrect is the dollar amount. When it was being read, the cents, the dollars and cents, the cents were incorrect.
So-
Everything else is correct.
The cents were not accurate as the video portrayed.
No, they were read incorrectly. So they need
During
to
the
be,
meeting.
they need to be amended. So it's not necessarily that the minutes are wrong. The minutes are right.
Okay.
The dollar amount is wrong. It needs to be corrected.
If the dollar amount it was read into the minutes wrong, that's no big deal. I mean, we're just voting on whether the minutes were accurate or not as took place during the
Okay.
meeting. So
But then
there
after
was
that-
inaccurate information given during the meeting, but the minutes are accurate.
Yes, but then after that, we need to correct the dollar amount for these minutes.
We just did. Hi, Mom. I mean, there's a video record of what we're discussing.
Right.
What we discussed
But you
last.
haven't said what the dollar value, if you go on page 3, it's highlighted.
Have to make that actual correction, maybe.
So, do you see on page 3 of the minutes?
this is the personal policy.
It should be in folder number 3.
Right. Agenda. Page 3, I'll get it,
Okay.
honest I will. There it is.
So I guess the minutes are correct as
Red.
read.
Yeah.
But somehow we need to have in these minutes, what the dollar amount should actually be for the grant.
Okay, the correction to the minutes should be $2,333.25 and not $2,333.75. The corrected number is 25 cents.
And not to make a huge issue out of it, but those minutes are not accurate anymore
Correct.
because they don't
Correct.
reflect that. So they need to go back to accurately reflecting what was discussed in the meeting.
Correct.
So we won't have minutes as a matter of historical record that talk about $2,333.25. We need to go back.
So the minutes will
Small
be
thing, but
correctly 75 cents that was discussed.
and is inaccurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was confusing.
Action items. Can you imagine that? We reset on that. Action items. Okay, let's see, so Tuesday, September 25th. Next meeting is Tuesday, October 9th, 3:30. And the next meeting after that is Tuesday, October 23rd, 3:30. Right there. Fun.
just because it was an action item, it seemed like forever. I just did want to make a note here that the Doublehead parking lot is in full swing. That site work looks like it's right in the middle of the trees have been cut and everything's looking to be cleared. And I know they've restructured that trail already, reblazed the trail to that lot. And just because that was something that went on for quite a while, I just wanted to make a note of that seems to be, I don't know, Pat, if you know, but that certainly seems to be absolutely on time to happen, to be finished before winter.
Yeah, they'll be finished within a few weeks, I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Great. Thank you.
sure.
That was it.
Good. I was impressed with Okay, item number 5, so approved minutes. Actions. Now we have a discussion about the idea of pay as you throw. This is an idea for the transfer station where you would buy the bags. Here's the information.
Gentlemen, you got three.
And we have plenty of them.
Yeah, go on.
And
There's more up
if
here on the
anybody
table.
wants any of those.
And then I am going to ask Bob to speak to this. He's done the research, he's been to the seminars, and he will do a much better job of it than I could.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's something that we've been discussing now for a while, and we've also discussed the idea with the transfer station committee, which is made up of all 6 selectmen. And so I was in a position to attend in the spring a pay-as-you-throw seminar down in Concord, and so we've kind of tried to learn as much as we can about what pay-as-you-throw means and why it makes sense to so many communities in our state, and what we should be considering when we look at how pay-as-you-throw can work for our community. And so Julie and I came across this PowerPoint online about pay-as-you-throw in New Hampshire, and how it can, basically reduce our solid waste expenses and end up having us providing incentives for people to recycle more and improve the amount of our waste that gets reduced, reused, and recycled, and see the solid waste expenses go down. I mean, that's kind of like the whole point of what we've been doing up there in 3 different phases to try and structure that facility to be more of a recycling center. And some of the discussions we've had at our transfer station committee meetings have been about the fact that should we really be thinking that we can mandate something and expect 100% compliance, or should we be realistically understanding that there's always going to be people who are not in compliance, and a pay-as-you-throw system changes everything from some sort of unenforceable mandate to a simple incentivized structure. So the last 5 pages, and they're double-sided copies, so it's the last 6 pages really, of that packet are towns as of 2017 that are currently utilizing a pay-as-you-throw system, what the bags cost, how big they are, if they have more than one size bag, where they're distributed, how everything is handled, so that we can get a sense of what the other communities in our state are doing. Some whole states in our region have a pay-as-you-throw systems set up statewide. I know Massachusetts has a lot of communities that are set up for pay-as-you-throw, as does Maine, and some 30, 40 towns in New Hampshire have the system set up. So that's why we're looking at it, and we kind of have gone back and forth, trying to gauge interest on how we feel about it. And there's not just if we want to introduce a pay-as-you-throw system, but if we do, when. And the logistics of separate towns having different separate systems up there is real. I mean, each town would have to vote to do this. The last meeting, there was discussion about whether or not it made sense to move forward this year in both towns. We've been talking about it in public meetings for a while now, and we have people in town that are aware of it and have approached me and said that they expect it to be on the warrant. They think it's time to do that, and that our facility is set up to take that in and move ever so much closer to a revenue neutral facility up there. The pay-as-you-throw concept is all about looking at solid waste disposal as a utility that is provided to the town. So just like we have electricity that's provided as a utility, and if Marge was a super conservationist and her house was doubly insulated and she had the highest quality windows in there that she could, and she heated all winter long with wood that she cut and split and stacked in a super insulated house, and Jerry's house was leaking like a sieve, and he had loose windows and he heated with an electric baseboard, would it be fair that they split their costs equally between them? If they pooled both costs of electricity throughout the winter and agreed to pay 50%, Marge probably would be very happy. So we have residents in our town that choose to compost, choose to recycle every single thing they can, make buying decisions at markets based on the packaging that's involved, and is it fair that they are also paying for someone else's solid waste to be disposed of? So that's the concept that towns are wrestling with and coming around to realizing pay-as-you-throw is the fairest, most equitable way to handle solid waste disposal. And I'd like to know how the residents in this town feel about it. And so I've heard from some, and I'm gauging interest here among my colleagues to see if it's high time that we hear from all.
Thank you, Bob. At this point, I will open it up for public comment on this issue. Anybody have comments? Jerry?
I would think that if you do present it on the warrant, that as part of the discussion, that you would be prepared to advise the town what each portion of the recycles revenue to the town. In other words, is glass a revenue and tin is not, vice versa, whatever, what they are, and what the costs are for, to at least estimate, for handling of that, both in terms of the on-site labor and the transportation after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, transportation costs, and depending on who you talk to, you say, well, recycling is actually in the tank right now because there's not the market for some of these products that there was a while back, and that is true. And we knew that going in, and that's why we set our recycling center up to be to operate the way that it is, because those bins can be repurposed for anything that we want to recycle. When the market changes, like all of a sudden there's number 2 peat plastic that we can get a high rate of return for, and if we separate it out and bale it separately with a good quality dry bale, we'll get more revenue for it than if it was lumped in with all the other plastic, just as an example. Bringing revenue in has always been part of the goal. Because we know that when we can bale and recycle, it will either make us money or cost us less money to recycle it. So the good thing is that it always is being, always avoids this stuff going into a landfill.
I'm not questioning how efficiently we're doing it or not doing it. I'm
Right.
just asking for the estimates of the cost of each
Yep.
and the revenue of each. And then from the green standpoint, the transportation, how far it's going,
Right.
estimate of fuel,
Yep.
consumption, things like that.
Yeah, and we know all that, and we do all that with the solid waste disposal that goes up to Berlin, and we can do the same calculus with things that we recycle. But I just want to caution, that's a moving target, a bit of a moving target. We'll provide our best information maybe as of October 15th.
I recognize you can't forecast what it will be 6 months from now, but you certainly have a history.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
I just think it's, obviously people like to be as green as possible, but there's a total, for example, solar panels may not really be green because of the cost of construction, as are windmills. There's all sorts of,
Underlying
exactly.
expenses.
All data requires interpretation at some point.
Right.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and we recycle over at the fire department, and it's amazing. I mean, like plastic bottles and cans, I bring it up. But I had a question on the other end. These landfills that are now not taking as much garbage in, have you seen an increase in their price to make up for their loss at their end?
Tipping fees?
Yeah, like saying, all of a sudden they start taking in half the amount of garbage, so they're making half the amount of money, basically. Have you seen price increases at all at that end, or anything?
I don't know.
I don't believe our tipping, we have all those spreadsheets in the office. I don't believe our tipping fees have increased. We haven't really sat down and really analyzed it. Our goal is to get a sense of how much less we're doing over the July 1st to December 31st period of time than how much we sent over the notch during that same time period in 2017. We feel like that's a fair comparison, even because we really were set up on July 1st to recycle everything that was being sorted. And that's about as early as we can say we were set up to recycle all the things that were being sorted up there. So we can do that, and at the same time we know what our tipping fees are, and we certainly can pass that along at the same time too. Tipping fees have gone up, tipping fees have gone down.
Also, it extends the life of the landfill.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, they may not be making as much right now, but they're going to make money for a longer period of time.
There you go.
So it's a good back and forth.
I got a question. How would it work if Bartlett chose not to do it and we chose to do it? How would that?
I don't think it works. I think that we would have to agree, although...
Well, yeah, but so if both towns have a warrant article and one town approves the warrant article and the other town doesn't, and yet we move forward, we have separate solid waste
Bills.
drop-off points in the transfer station. So we would be taking in the revenue. The revenue that the towns take in is from the sale of the bags. So if you buy 33 mil thick plastic bags at Hannaford's or Shaw's or something like that, it costs you, whatever it costs, 20 cents a bag, 25 cents a bag. If you do the calculus on what it takes us between tipping fees and transportation costs to determine a fair rate for the bags for a roll of 33 mil bags, and most towns are coming in at about $1.50, $1.25, $2 per bag. So you're paying an extra $1 a bag, an extra $1.25 per bag at that point. That's where your revenue comes in. So, and then we would require everything that goes into the compactor to be in a pay-as-you-throw bag, and they don't. So it's still doable. I would think they wouldn't, or the town that didn't vote it in wouldn't be happy about it, because it would incentivize residents from one town using the other town's compactor. There's no question that it would be tricky, but it's the same thing we've done with our phase-in renovation project. I mean, either town in March had the ability to vote down those proposals. I would hope that wouldn't happen.
And I was also thinking that we would probably have to hire more help to manage that. I mean, you're going to have somebody at those bins all day long who's going to be watching either one or both of those bins. I don't know if that's feasible to have one person to watch both bins or not, but there's also an expensive, I would think you have to hire somebody else to help out, because they are stressed out there right now.
Well, as you know, from when you and I toured up at Lancaster with Dennis Patno, they didn't hire anybody new or really feel there was a need to bring anybody else in new. So there's some, and certainly I think, I don't speak for our neighbors to the south, but I don't think that the selectmen in Bartlett would be looking to hire anybody and increase the amount of payroll that we expend up there for something like that. So, yeah, I think just like the renovation project, and we've seen from working at how things can look and work out in the long run without an increase in payroll. I'd love to see both towns do that. And also, in theory, maybe you could word the warrant article in a way, and this would be something we would have to put through town council. Would we word the warrant article to require passage in the other towns? I don't know. I don't even know if you could do that. I'd need a legal counsel to weigh in on that.
I mean, but feasibly, we could do it on our own.
Absolutely.
But again, we would, if that was the case, we probably would have to hire one of our employees to sit in front of our bin to make sure that that's being utilized properly.
Yeah.
So that would certainly be an expense if we did go with just us approving it and not Bartlett. But
however, we don't have employees up there.
I know, but we could put one.
You're saying we
have to
would
put one.
Yeah.
Dedicate somebody for that.
An incentive to have the other towns participate, neighbors to the south. It would probably be easy to demonstrate that their volume in their compactor would increase while ours would decrease, and therefore their costs would go up.
Well, and even if our volume decreased dramatically and theirs didn't, even without cross-town disposal in their dumpster, we'd see our costs go way down while theirs would stay the same, as well as the revenue coming into us would also.
I think unless someone was policing
That's what I'm saying.
where it went,
Police it.
Right.
and because 90% of the time that I go there, and I go there almost every day it's open, there is no one at the bin. So no one, unless you were policing it, no one would stop anyone from Jackson putting into the Bartlett. I happen to be a taxpayer in both, so I can use either one, but so it doesn't affect me as much, but I'm certain that you'd find, particularly tourists, second homeowners would be doing that.
It would require change whether or not, even if only one town approved the warrant article, for sure. I mean, I really think that this requires an awareness campaign right now, which is part of what this is, and discussion that continues to take place through the month. We're looking at getting some flyers and posters that we can provide for information on why this seems to make sense for so many towns and why it's something that has such support around the state. And I would think a public hearing would be in order for something that represents this level of change. have a community night where people were able to voice their concerns for and against. I mean, that's how we kind of tend to work things out. I think that would be a good idea too. I think the more people understand it, the more likely they are to be able to make an informed decision.
Obviously, it's going to take some more dialogue, but I think it's an important discussion to have, and we should start it now. And I talked to Gene Chandler from Bartlett, and he was for it. And he's been for it for a number of years, and I think the last time he proposed it, it was really shot down. Really, is that correcting? It was shot down anyway, and he backed away from it. But I think if with support, he would get behind it again.
I think if Gene supported, that would be 90% of the battle in Bartlett.
Yep.
And now we're going to hear from our building inspector about building inspection.
That's exciting.
Fall is here, he's not in shorts.
Yeah, it was cold today. Actually, I met some contractors, and they were all freezing too. They're not used to this little colder weather and the rain. We have 4 new building permits, and one's at 25 Alpine Drive. It's a deck renewal. They did the front deck last year, and they just never did the back deck, so that's happening now. And then we have a new Madberry Lane, adding a full bath in the basement. And then we have a new home going in at the end of Pine Brook Road, a new 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. And that site basically had a septic system for the last 20 years, and anyway, got kind of reapproved, and it's a long story, so anyway.
But it's a roof permit.
Yes, it was. What happened was they put the system in, and it never got inspected. And that's, I guess, then when someone recently purchased the lot, so the state, the DES went out there and realized it was never inspected. And everything, I guess the system, it's an old stone and pipe system, I believe. And whatever, it got reapproved, so it's good. I think Bird knows about it too.
Okay, but it's pretty hard to put in a system and not have it approved, because you're supposed to have somebody look at it before you cover it up.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know why it happened, but there was some kind of
You don't know how to put it in.
No, I do. Ellison. Yep. Did it years ago, and then they just recently went over there and checked it with the DS and got all approved.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it was kind of a weird thing. So, and actually, I asked Bert about that too. But anyway, it's good. Especially if the DS comes up and looks at it. 12 Wildflower Lane. It's an addition and a remodel. And what else is going on in town? Data place is coming right along. Sprinkler system, I think it's almost all done. They're still doing some rough plumbing, some rough wiring in the last couple of units. There's sheetrock going up. So that's coming along. And
You've been watching?
yes, yep. I've been going up there weekly, and I think the fire chief's been going up there basically weekly too. And actually, Goody was there probably it was 2 weeks ago. He was up there too. So I was looking. So coming along.
Good to see.
And that's about it, I think. Any other real
Think there'll be a push for the fall to get foundations in?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think this house on Pine Brook, they can get going on it, so. So we'll see what happens there. And actually, they just started framing a house that was what I had a permit for a while off of Dundee Road. You know, up there by Rick.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
Yeah, how the crew was,
producing.
right, yeah, this is probably like 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that, and I think they're almost ready for a roof.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a pretty big crew, they're at a Boylan. Yeah, that one, I know, yeah. So that's a good thing, you get a roof out before the snow flies.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, new business. We have a letter from DOT, bridge maintenance. Selectmen would like to thank you for the work you did repairing the Jackson Honeymoon Covered Bridge.
Sign away.
The timeliness and attention to detail on this project was beyond expectation. We appreciate your efforts and the efforts from the whole DOT crew. I would propose that we sign this letter.
I'll second that if it's a motion.
I don't know, does it have to be?
I don't think it has to be a motion.
I would just propose that we sign it.
Let's sign the heck out of it.
They did a great job and they were really timely.
Weren't they almost a week ahead of schedule?
No, that was
too?
pretty good. Thank you.
I've done it wrong again. The trustees of the trust fund,
That one's just a correction. What happened was the request came in, when the request based on the actual physical receipts didn't match what was being requested, so the trustees used the figure from the receipts. So it just needs to be stated as a corrected amount.
but I did read it correctly when.
You did, yes.
Sometimes I don't do that. So the correction is to the amount
Read it right.
$367.17 was read in, and the correction is $367.05.
And that was for the ambulance capital reserve.
Yes, from the Bartlett Jackson Ambulance Capital Reserve Fund 0070. Paid miscellaneous expenses. There it is, corrected.
Excuse me.
Excellent.
Okay, we have a liquor license
Oh,
request.
wait, we've
We have
got
to vote on
one
it.
more,
We have
one
to vote
more
on that.
trustee withdrawal request. There was the correction and then the actual withdrawal
Oh, this
request.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And
yes.
that one you can just read.
And the withdrawal from the trust funds. The Board of Selectmen are requesting the following withdrawals from the trust funds as indicated below. $65,000 from the road reconstruction